The number of individual experiences of soldiers in battle are as plentiful as there have been soldiers to live through them. Some of these have been chronicled, but not all have risen to the status of what we would call legendary. Born in 1919 in Viipuri, Finland, Lauri Allen Törni, later known as Larry Allen Thorne, was an athletic youth who would eventually go into war under 3 different flags. After attending business school and serving with the Civil Guard, Törni entered military service in 1938, joining Jäger Battalion 4 stationed at Kiviniemi. When the Winter War began in November 1939, his enlistment was extended and his unit confronted invading Soviet troops at Rotu. During the battles at Lake Ladoga, Törni took part in the destruction of the encircled Soviet divisions in Lemeti. His performance during these engagements was noticed by his commanders, who assigned him to officer training, where he was commissioned as second lieutenant in the reserves. After the Winter War in June 1941, Törni went to Austria for 7 weeks of training with the Waffen-SS in the Finnish Volunteer Battalion under the alias Larry Lane, and returned to Finland in July. As a Finnish officer, the Germans now recognized him as an Untersturmführer. Most of Törni's reputation was based on his successful actions in the Continuation War, 1941-44. In 1943, a unit informally named Detachment Törni was created under his command. This was an infantry unit that penetrated deep behind enemy lines and soon enjoyed a reputation on both sides of the front for its combat effectiveness. One of Törni's subordinates was future President of Finland, Mauno Koivisto. Koivisto served in a reconnaissance company under Törni's command during the Battle of Ilomantsi, the final Finnish-Soviet engagement of the Continuation War during July and August 1944. Törni's unit inflicted such heavy casualties on Soviet units that the Soviet Army placed a bounty of 3 million Finnish marks on his head. The September 1944 Moscow armistice required the Finnish government to remove German troops from its territory, resulting in the Lapland War. During this period, much of the Finnish army was demobilized, including Törni, leaving him unemployed in 1944. In January 1945, he was recruited by the pro-German resistance movement in Finland and left for saboteur training in Germany with the intention of organizing resistance in case Finland was occupied by the Soviet Union. The training was prematurely ended in March, but as Törni could not secure transportation to Finland, he joined a German unit to fight Soviet troops near Schwerin, Germany. He surrendered to British troops in the last stages of World War II and eventually returned to Finland in June 1945 after escaping a British POW camp in Lübeck, Germany. As his family had been evacuated from Karelia, Törni sought to rejoin them in Helsinki but was arrested by the Finnish state police. After escaping, he was arrested a second time in 1946 and tried for treason for having joined the German military. After trial, he received a 6-year sentence, managed to escape again, but was recaptured and sent to the Riihimäki State Prison. In December 1948, President Juho Paasikivi granted him a pardon. Törni left for Sweden, and under alias as a Swedish seaman, eventually traveled to Caracas, Venezuela, where he met one of his Winter War commanders, who was in exile having settled in Venezuela after the war. From Caracas, Törni hired onto a Swedish cargo ship, destined for the United States in 1950. While in the Gulf of Mexico near Mobile, Alabama, Törni jumped overboard and swam to shore. In 1953, he was granted a residence permit through an act of Congress that was shepherded by the law firm of Wild Bill Donovan, former head of the Office of Strategic Services. Törni enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1954 and adopted the name Larry Thorne. In the U.S. Army, he was befriended by a group of Finnish-American officers, and with their support, Thorne joined the U.S. Army Special Forces. While there, he taught skiing, survival mountaineering, and guerrilla tactics. In turn, he attended airborne school and advanced in rank to sergeant. receiving his U.S. citizenship in 1957. Deploying to South Vietnam in November 1963 to support Army of the Republic of Vietnam (ARVN) forces in the Vietnam War, Thorne and Special Forces Detachment Alpha 734 were stationed in the Tiên Bien district and assigned to operate encampments at Chao Lang and later Tiên Bien. During a fierce attack on the camp at Tiên Bien, he received 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star Medal for valor during the battle. Thorne's second tour in Vietnam began in February 1965 with 5th Special Forces Group. He then transferred to Military Assistance Command Vietnam, Studies and Observations Group, a classified U.S. Special Operations unit focusing on unconventional warfare in Vietnam as a military advisor. On the 18th of October 1965, as part of the Operation Shining Brass, Thorne was supervising the first clandestine mission to locate Viet Cong turnaround points along the Ho Chi Minh Trail and destroy them with airstrikes. 2 helicopters were launched from Cam Duc Special Forces Camp. While one of the helicopters descended through a gap in the weather to drop off the 6-man team, the command helicopter carrying Thorne loitered nearby. When the drop helicopter returned above the cloud cover, the helicopter carrying Thorne had disappeared. Rescue teams were unable to locate the crash site. In 1999, Thorne's remains were found by a joint Finnish and American effort and repatriated to the United States. Formally identified in 2003, his remains were buried at Arlington National Cemetery, along with the other casualties of the mission recovered at the crash site.